Look, you can point to all kinds of places and how's this guy doing? How's that guy doing? And statistically, there aren't many places around the diamond right now where offensively you'd say there is a big problem. Um, you know, they're getting hits from left field. They're getting some hits from right field. Guerrero just had a 21, 22 game hit streak. You're getting home runs from third base. Behind the plate is okay. It was really good early, not so good lately, but whatever. But you're not getting much from Bichette. Bichette is a mystery to me. I thought this was a real ball player, and he probably is. And I mean like a real good ball player who is going to hit around 300 all the time, going to give you some pop, going to do a lot of good things at the plate. I thought the chasing of pitches, like him being 0-2 almost every time he comes up, it's almost like before he walks to the plate, they just should put up 0-2. But it's really not happening for him. And I have to wonder why this team, or has this team tried to get him to be more disciplined at the plate and not chase those breaking balls outside. Tell me what you think when you look at him.
Well, first of all, Bichette is sort of that classic example of a guy who has these wonderful stretches of, a week and a half to 2 weeks, as he did actually on the road trip that preceded this homestand. He was the best hitter they had on that trip that went through Tampa Bay, Minnesota, and then 2 games in Baltimore because one of them was rained out. If I'm not mistaken, he had 12 hits on that trip, and 3 of them were home runs. One of which gave them the lead in that last game in Baltimore before the rains came, and then they ultimately lost, thanks to Rougned Odor, in the second game. So contrary to he's not hitting, yes, in fact, he was on the road trip. He hasn't been quite as successful since they returned home. And I think that's Bo Bichette. I think Bo Bichette is, sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. And you have to understand that, that aggression that he comes to the plate with, which, as you say, means almost 0-2 instantly and always hitting with a 2-strike approach, is part of the reason he's here. Because the Blue Jays drafted him knowing that he was not interested in changing the aggressive nature with which he approaches his at-bats. And the Blue Jays told him that they didn't expect him to change. And that's one of the things that this organization does from a scouting perspective, is that they don't try and alter a player's natural ability once at the major league level. They'll coach it, but they won't try and alter it. It's one of the things that drew Bichette to the Blue Jays in the first place, and clearly them to him. So I don't think you're ever going to see him change the way he approaches his at-bats. I don't think you're ever going to see him become a base on balls machine. So you either live with what he is, or you move him to a team that will accept who he is.
Yeah, but this is a guy who was a 290 hitter coming into this season, a career 290 hitter. Now, granted,
led the American League in hits last year.
Exactly. And now he's hitting 260. That 30 points is fairly significant, I would say. And probably means a lot. So you're not going to change him when he's having success with it. But he is not having the same kind of success on a consistent basis this year. Maybe it's 1 year. Maybe he gets hot from here on in and hits 275, 280 by the end of the year. I don't know. It's possible.
But you know what, Bob? I think, listen, I don't have a screen in front of me other than this one. I think if you look at his April numbers, I think he had a terrible start to the year.
Yes, he did.
Which would contribute to the overall decline in those numbers that you speak of. In fact, I know his father showed up, I think, in May to help sort of, get him back to a more respectable level. And as he said to me, and I don't mean Bo, I mean his father, Dante, he said, April was a mess for him. And what ended up happening is because the numbers were so bad, he kept chasing better at bats. And when you start doing that, things get worse and worse and worse. And he was coming to the field early and overworking. And,
I get it.
he just didn't know how to relax and accept the fact that it was a slow start and things will come around eventually.
Jamie, well, people have already forgotten. Last year was a 3-stadium year for the Jays.
Mhm.
It was that long ago, and the residue of the pandemic. You have to wonder if, because they're back into a regular routine of home games at Rogers Center and then the rest of Major League Baseball, if management might be prone to be a little more patient with these guys to allow them to, okay, we're now back in a regular routine because it was easier to hit in Dunedin, easier to hit in Buffalo, and then finally get to Rogers Center. So here they are back in a regular home schedule. But it also,
and look what they did last year. They won 91 games, for goodness sakes. They're not going to win 91 this year.
No,
they won't get to that level this year.
But that brings up the concern I really had, was that this team has really become a mediocre road team. The home schedule, the home record's okay.
Mm-hmm.
They are brutal on the road right now. They cannot win on the road. I mean, look at like that trip to Seattle before they fired Charlie. Baltimore. I mean, it's the road has not been friendly to the Toronto Blue Jays. And I mean, is there an explanation?
I have none. That road trip that started in Oakland, and I've always heard every player I ever speak to says you just don't know how difficult it is to play in the East Coast for a stretch of 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and suddenly jump on a plane and the next day play a night game in Oakland or Los Angeles or Seattle. And it takes upwards of 3 days to get your body right. And I guess that's understandable. I mean, we've all done it. We've all jumped on planes and gone and spent time on the West Coast and felt a little fatigued the first few days.
But that's me. I'm walking through Disneyland. That's what.
That's right. but guess what? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're not necessarily standing in against 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
That's right.
But guess what? Every team on the East Coast has to deal with that, right? The schedule is such that every team has to go through that, understandably. So why is it a problem for the Blue Jays? I don't quite know. Why is it a problem for Jose Barrios in particular? His road numbers are atrocious. That one baffles me. I asked countless people to explain it, and they can't put a finger on it. The best I heard was from Caleb Joseph, who said, maybe when you're the home starter, you go and you warm up, you get a feel for the baseball, you come into the game, and immediately you step on the mound and face a batter. He suggested that maybe that, say, 15 to 20 minutes as a visiting starter, where you're taking the mound as the second pitcher, is enough to get him out of his rhythm.